All right, ready? Hi, I'm Andrew D. Bernstein. I've been the NBA photographer for over 35 years, and during that time, I've accrued hundreds of thousands of photos of Kobe Bryant over his 20-year Hall of Fame career.
What's going on, world? It's another episode of iCollect there on your screen. I'm here in Los Angeles with a Lakers legend. We should probably put, a camera in between the two Kobe jerseys. Andy Bernstein, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, George. Great to have you. Thanks for coming out.
We definitely want to link with you. You've been a Lakers photographer for how long?
That's my 36th season now for the NBA, so Lakers, Clippers, all the NBA itself.
Right. And we specifically kind of wanted to see, what all you've accrued Kobe-wise. Mm-hmm. How did you get involved in Lakers photography?
Well, it's a great question. I don't know if I can remember that far back. I was going to school out here in LA, a school called Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. One of my teachers knew that I was into sports and photojournalism and hooked me up with a Sports Illustrated photographer to be an assistant. And I was all of a sudden at the Forum helping photographers shoot Laker games and Kings games. And I learned this very specialized technique very early in the late 70s, early 80s. Of lighting arenas with strobes, big, gigantic flashes. And Sports Illustrated was the only entity that was really doing it in those days. So I took that into my professional life as a photographer. I got very lucky. The 1983 NBA All-Star game was at the Forum. And my good friend at the Lakers said, why don't you go talk to so-and-so in New York? And I took my little portfolio and met with so-and-so. And they hired me to be their photographer, and I've been working for the NBA ever since. I was sort of the de facto team photographer for the Lakers for a while until they moved to Staples Center, where I became the official photographer for the Lakers, as well as director of photography for Staples Center and AEG.
Take me back to the first time you met this young, brash guy from Lower Merion. What was that initial meeting like?
Well, it's interesting. I had been working for the NBA and the Lakers. By that point, this was 1996. I've been about 12 years already, so I consider myself kind of a veteran at that point. And it was media day. And like I do with any guy I haven't met before, I go up and I shake his hand. I say, hey, Kobe, I'm Andy Bernstein. I'm Lakers team photographer. And he's shaking my hand and won't let go. He says, well, I know who you are. I said, what? Really? And he said, yeah, I had all your posters in my room growing up.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, okay, hold on. First of all, who has the presence of mind to look at the photo credit, which is like a minus point type, I can't even see it without a magnifying glass. And I just found that to be unbelievable. And from that moment on, I was just enthralled with him.
How has that personal relationship expanded over the years and thrived?
Well, I always say that the best part of my job are the relationships that I've been able to forge over years and years and years. And, that's starting basically with guys like Magic or Pat Riley, Shaq, Phil Jackson, of course, Kobe. I think I've been able to document some really poignant and important moments to him. There's that sort of unspoken approachability that I have with him, which is great, but also a tremendous amount of respect for his private space. I would never infringe on that. That is 20 years of trust that kind of all comes together at that one moment, I guess, in time, which I have a lot of gratitude. There's no other way to look at it.
Let's see some photos that I don't want to say your first photo that you ever took of him, but some photos of that time.
Sure. Very early, I went on the road with the Lakers. So, for example, this is like Kobe, I think maybe in his hotel room. I think this is the rookie season.
Right.
Signing autographs. I mean, look how young he was.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Let's do this one, a young Kobe with the 8 and a young Andy.
Well, this was one of my favorite shirts. I actually just threw this shirt away recently. Honestly, because my wife said if she sees that shirt one more time, she's gonna throw me out. But this was a shoot I believe we did for Sprite. He was endorsing a lot of things in the day. Once in a while, I try to get a shot after the shoot with him.
We always hear a lot about Kobe behind the scenes working.
Yeah, this happened to be in Hawaii. Hawaii during training camp. The Lakers every other year would go to Hawaii and use the University of Hawaii facilities. No one had really ever seen or ever documented his lifting. I was very cautious about that, but he'd also had known that I had photographed Jordans.
Right.
So I think that kind of maybe tilted the scale a little bit for me.
As a photographer, there's certain people you deal with that you're like, okay, I want you to pose this way or do this. Was he kind of like, I'm gonna do this and you just catch me?
Kobe was always incredibly accessible and gracious and respectful. I usually always ask permission, but he and everyone else just got used to me being around, like the true fly on the wall.
Right.
I can honestly tell you in the 20 years I photographed him, there was never a moment where he said to me, Andy, get a picture of this. Now Shaq, on the other hand, was the king of that. He'd say, Andy, get your camera ready.
Let's talk about some of the difficulties in shooting Kobe, particularly in China, when he has an entire country, it seems, around him. How are you, as a photographer, able to get those different shots when he's going through all of that?
Well, it's tough. I mean, we kind of call it in my business combat sports photography. You know, first and foremost, I have to be friends with the security guys, and they're wonderful guys. I mean, the guys I've known for years.
So there's Andy tip number one: be friends with the security guys.
Always put them high on your Christmas card list.
Has there ever been any shots that you remember you were not able to get, or you were like, man, I wish I was here at the right time? Because you know, some of it is just being in the right place at the right time.
Well, are you referring to the 81-point game, George? Are we getting to that subject now?
We can get there. we can go right there. Yeah.
Well, probably one of the greatest moments of Kobe's career was his 81-point game against Toronto, and a certain photographer who you're sitting next to was not at that game. Back in the day, and we still do, have double headers at Staples Center, where the Clippers will play in the afternoon, Lakers will play at night, usually on Sunday. My boss and I decided I would do the Clipper game in the afternoon. I shot the Clipper game, went and picked up my kids, and we drove down to Laguna Beach to visit some family.
Okay.
And we're having a great time. And as we're driving back, of course, I'm listening to the Laker game. We're passing Staples Center, is off to the left, downtown LA, and I'm listening, and he's got like 60 in the third quarter. And I got my two kids in car seats in the back. And I had one of my photographers was at the game.
Right.
We had it covered, So I'm thinking, do I like make a left now and like drop the kids off the loading dock or something?
Right.
It sounded like it was going to be pretty historic.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. So fast forward to 2 days later. All right, kicker, this is the kicker of the story. I'm at Staples Center and I'm shooting guys and I'm sort of tiptoeing around him and he's flat on his back, stretching hamstrings or something. And he goes, hey, come over here. I'm like, me? He goes, yeah. He says, you weren't here the other day, were you? And I'm like, no. And he looks at me with that Mamba kind of look and I said, you know what, Kobe? When you hit 101 points and that's news, I'll be there for that one. He laughed. He goes, okay, I'll give you that one, man.
In your profession, you can never get too high, never get too low. You can, I guess, get caught in the moment of the game, but not so much. Like, you covering this guy for X amount of years and you see that. How are you able to, I guess, compose yourself, but also, I mean, this is a personal thing for you as well.
Yeah. First and foremost, I have to do my job. So I always say that if I see it happen, I didn't do my job. If I'm watching it happen, then I'm not getting it in the camera. I'm short-shrifting whoever I'm working for at the time and my own personal work ethic.
We'll actually take a break from this and go to one of his most iconic photos of all time, dunking over 7'6" Yao Ming.
Yeah, that was unbelievable, man. He came in and went up and just kept going up.
We can go here. I mean, everyone loves that jacket.
Yeah, well, this was their third championship. My good friend Jeff Hamilton designed those jackets every year. And Kobe loved those jackets. I don't know what was up with that. This one's one of my favorites. This was shot at the Forum. One of my specialties is putting cameras in very strange, weird places throughout the arena, these remote cameras that I have to fire with a trigger button. And this one happened to be up in the catwalk, looking straight down. And for all you photography kind of geeks out there like me, this was a Hasselblad 2.25 camera with a 350 millimeter lens. It's probably about half the length of this print. hanging like sort of precariously off the rafters at the Forum, but it was clamped up and safety, and I push a button down on the floor, and you know, he had a breakaway dunk, and all my remote cameras are on the opposite end from where I sit, so I don't really know what I actually got until you actually see the film. These days, I could either see it right on my camera, or I can see it right after the game. I was so happy with this and proud of it, honestly. I made a huge print for him, and I drove it up to his house when he was living in the Palisades at the time. You want to keep digging?
Yeah, let's see what else we can.
Let's see what else we got in here. This is actually an angle, George, that I invented.
Oh, wow.
See how it's perfectly symmetrical? There's no way to actually get that unless you're absolutely straight, perfectly aligned with the backboard and the rim, right?
Right.
So the only way to do that, I figured out, is that you cut a hole in the bottom of the basket stanchion. Somehow I talked the people at Staples Center to cut me a hole in it, and I stuck the camera in there. Again, I'm all the way on this end. This is me over here, pushing a button. You get a moment like that, you kind of sit back and say, man, all that work really paid off.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. For a finals game, I do probably 10 or 11 remote cameras. It takes 3, 4, 5 hours to set up, a couple of assistants. We've sort of refined it now down to almost a formula that we use every game, whether it's at home or on the road. The guy I have now, he trained for about 3 months, and I'm really super grateful to the guys who work with me every single day, because they're the ones who really do all the heavy lifting.
Right. So there's more photography tips coming from you, just all kind of gems. Be in the right place, early work, create your own angles. I think what we can get into is some of the ones that you have behind the scenes that we've never seen.
That's a good idea. Now this goes back to what we were talking about, the 2009-2010 season. I embedded myself with the Lakers. Phil Jackson and I did a book together called Journey to the Ring. And this is hours after, I mean, probably 2 to 3 hours after everyone else had left. And I was involved in a shoot that Phil Jackson was doing, an interview up in Jeannie Buss's office. And she had all the trophies displayed. And I just looked through the blinds and I see Kobe's out there with Craig Hodges. I couldn't resist shooting this. This was shot in Madison Square Garden, and this is about an hour and a half before the game. He's soaking both his ankles, and then he's got his broken finger in this little coffee cup of ice, and he's in this meditative state. And the last thing I want to do is disturb that. Or, more importantly, I don't want the click of the shutter of the camera to disturb him. I've asked him many times after this, were you aware? Because I had no idea you were in there.
We've seen a lot of shoe photos over the past 5 to 6 years. When that wasn't a big thing, you know, maybe a decade ago. Why do you think that has changed?
When I first started shooting, regularly, Converse was really it. And then, you go a few years down the road, and of course Jordan changed it all, blew the whole thing up. When branding became the thing, shoes were really what defined those guys, mostly, I would say. I think it's been profitable in every sense. I mean, for the shoe companies, as well as for the athletes. And of course now with social media, a lot of people are gravitating towards what shoe is this guy wearing. And I notice now that there's the sneaker of the night, featured on Instagram. There are social media channels devoted only to shoes. So I'm told on a nightly basis, make sure you get this guy's shoes and that guy's shoes. And some guys change shoes at halftime.
I'm seeing a photo that I really like here.
This was the Lakers going down to Orlando. I guess Dwight was talking a little smack before the game or something, I don't know. And Kobe just destroyed him. Myself and the Orlando Magic photographer, Fernando Medina, we got multiple angles of this. Fernando's picture's actually better than mine. It just was a crazy moment.
Kobe retired and you gave him a gift.
I decided to come up with this sort of special way of maybe thanking Kobe, or it was even a way of me sort of reflecting on his career through my work in a kind of a big way. Basically, it's Kobe Bryant, a career photographed by me. The whole idea was these, giant photos, somewhat chronological, quite a labor of love to do this. Took a lot of work.
And so what was his reaction once you gave him?
He was very taken back, I think. He doesn't really like looking at action photos of himself. I don't know why. He it doesn't really do much for him.
Yeah.
But I think for him to see it in this format, well, I looked at it a couple of times and go, whoa. And then of course his homage to MJ. Just some really cool different action shots that were favorites of mine over the years. Some of them published, some of them not.
How much to you, in your opinion, is it the eye, having that eye, and owning your skill?
It's both of those things, plus you have to have a teeny bit of like ESP, you know?
Yeah.
Gotta be like a millisecond ahead. You gotta be able to anticipate. That comes with preparation, that comes with learning a guy's game. You know, back in the early days, Magic would be coming down full blast. He could do 25 moves before he even gets to your side of the court. I don't know if he's gonna, you know, no look pass, if he's gonna go down the back, if he's gonna go up, whatever he's gonna do, or throw an alley-oop. So you just kind of learn. Sometimes you get burned, but more times than not, you hope that you made the right decision. And you have to eliminate distractions. That's the most, probably one of the biggest things once the game starts.
Right.
You just have to lock into what you're supposed to be doing. And this is a great behind the scenes. It's just kind of rare to get these three guys, you know, Shaq, Kobe, Phil, and of course Gary, all in the same picture at the same time.
Right. I think the thing that pops out to me most is the Jordan jersey in the background.
Yeah. Well, he was wearing that during that finals. It was really interesting. I mean, the thing that really pops out to me more than anything is that Shaq is actually reading game notes, which I don't think I ever saw happen ever. This is one of my favorite photos, you know, not just of Kobe, but in general. This is the only photo of my entire career that my wife allows me to hang in the house.
Really?
Because it's a very paternal moment. Kobe had been through a lot that season. Everyone said he couldn't win without Shaq. Phil had written some not particularly nice things about him in a book. Incredible moment of satisfaction on Kobe's face, and almost like a dad, you know, job well done, kid. So when our teenagers at the time were acting up, we'd point to that picture and say, look, have some respect. Right. Those guys can do it in this house.
Oh,
and
wow.
Great moment, just right after, you know, they won the championship, and you go in the locker room and champagne is going crazy. This photo is, you know, it kind of breaks every kind of tenet of design, because you never put a guy right in the middle. You don't run your book gutter down the middle. You don't have somebody walking away from the camera, all that stuff. But I love this picture because every single person you can look is looking right at him. And this is another one of those floor cameras, but from a little bit different perspective. The camera's more in front of me than under the basket. This is very typical what would happen after a game. This was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We came back from a road trip, and everybody else is walking one way to get to the parking lot for their cars, and he's walking this way to get to the helicopter. Because he would take a helicopter back to Orange County where he lived.
Right.
They threw in some stuff from his Olympic experience, he and LeBron. This is basically a documentation of the Achilles injury. I mean, this is almost the moment of the injury. Coming out with his daughters, kind of devastated. Here, I was with him when he had the stitches taken out. This is his surgeon and his very good friend, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiang, and a very meditative photo, you know, during the anthem, getting ready for his last All-Star game. And that's where the book ends. I gave it to him before he retired. The last game, that monumental 60-point game.
I'll ask you this one question.
Yeah.
If the Lakers were to decide to hang something from the rafters of you, I'm thinking a camera, a lens, what would that thing be?
Honestly, it just makes me happy that my work is hanging permanently in Staples Center.
Yeah.
When you walk around Staples, there are hundreds and hundreds of photographs that I shot and guys who worked for me shot over the years of the Lakers and the Clippers and the Kings and all the entertainment and the Sparks. And so that itself is a true legacy.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about that. That's all I need. So this framed piece, George, kind of gives you an idea as to how extensive the setup is, first of all, for what we do on a nightly basis with the 7 different camera angles, remote cameras. This was really born out of back when Jordan was dunking like crazy and we could only get one shot of it, you know, from one angle. So the NBA photos people and myself and some MIT geniuses sat down and figured out a way to do it so that multiple cameras could be fired on one strobe burst. And in that millionth of a second, all those cameras are going to go off at the same time, and the strobes are going to fire, and you can get the same moment from multiple angles, but it's not the same picture. So that could then be exploited and sold to different entities. So as a thank you to you guys for coming out, you and Norris, thank you Norris for coming out. I want to give you each a copy of my book, my Journey to the Ring book that I did with Phil Jackson.
Thank you.
From the Lakers 2009-2010 season that culminated in an amazing championship that they won.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy.
Of course.
Yeah.
And for a lucky viewer, you're going to win one of these, signed by me. And all I want to do is say thank you. Thank you for watching, and also thank you for enjoying the book.